All right, we are live inside of the VIP group. All righty. So I'm going to record this so that it will be inside of the group. All right, hello, hello, hello. It's your girl Paula Marie, aka the EbonyBizDiva. This is our repurposing content segment. So we're working on how do we create content, but then how do we repurpose content as well? How do we make sure that we stay on brand, right? And not drive ourselves crazy? Because let's face it, when it comes to content creation, that's the heaviest, right? And so we're going to work through how do you repurpose content intelligently so that you don't have to wear yourselves thin. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's dig into it. So I'm going to go to my Canva. All right, there we go. So when it comes to repurposing content, right, I want us to understand that there are several different ways to repurpose content. We're going to talk about 3 of them in this workshop, okay? And if there's questions that you have along the way, definitely place those in the comments. I'll circle back around and I'll make sure that I answer those. But then I also want to make sure that I'm actually looking at your content. So don't be afraid to post your content, your posts, snippets of what you're asking me for in the comments so that we can get down in the weeds of it. So when it comes to repurposing content saves lives. Okay. And it saves you time, right? Because you feel like you're dying 1,000 deaths when you have to create content. And some of my clients, they feel very distracted. So they become very distracted with other things when it comes time to repurposing the content. But repurposing content can definitely save you time, because instead of reinventing the wheel, you're literally taking the time to just take the content you've already created, maybe repackage it in a different way, right? Instead of coming up with it from scratch. So the next thing that repurposing content does is it keeps your messaging consistent. It keeps you on brand. Now, this is important because sometimes when we're throwing out content left and right, we get so caught up in the machine of creating content that we're not being very crystal clear about making sure that we are staying on brand, making sure that the message for the moment is consistent across all the content. And that means not just one post. So one of the things that we kind of think is, oh, we'll create a post to talk about this one thing, right? When literally you should have about 20 to 30 pieces of content for each particular item in your business that you want to highlight. So for example, if you have an event, you don't just post the event, right? You have tons of content that talk about the event, that ask questions and raises awareness and curiosity about the event, right? And then you have the event image in a couple of different variations, right? So you really want to make sure that you have a multitude of pieces of content for each specific item in your business that you want to highlight. And when you're doing that, it keeps you on brand, it keeps you consistent, it keeps everybody's focus on what? The event. Instead of talking about the event one day and then talking about your kids the next day. Like, we really want to stay consistent with making sure we're stringing along content that is on brand with the messaging that your business is sending out and delivering at that time. So the other thing that repurposing content does is it eliminates the overwhelm. So literally like it just kind of pulls that overwhelm out of your body, because once you get into the rhythm of flow of recreating content and repurposing content, then you're going to feel like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to do A, B, and C. Okay, check that off. Now I need to do 1, 2, and 3. There really is a rhythm to it, right? And a science to it. So once you do that, you're gonna feel a lot of weight being lifted off of your bodies. A lot. So how do we repurpose content effortlessly, right? How do we create content and repurpose content that we can multiply into multiple streams of content? What is the magic formula, and how do I do it without feeling tired, without feeling overwhelmed? Let's get into it. So you got to have the right systems. You got to have the right tools in place. We're going to talk about all of those things in tonight's workshop. So there are 3 ways that we're going to touch on today on how to repurpose content, right? Number 1, you can share content across social media platforms. So if you're on multiple platforms, and most of my clients, they're on multiple platforms, and each of you are on multiple platforms because Pinterest isn't your number 1, right? But you want to infuse Pinterest into the thing that you're already doing to generate more eyes on your business, to grow your email list, to make more sales. You know that Pinterest gives you that power to do that, right? And so when you're sharing content across multiple social media platforms, it actually eliminates the task of having to create content for Facebook, but then let's create something different for YouTube, and then let's create something different for Pinterest. Like, you don't have to live in that world. Now, we were not too far away from that. A few years back, there was this strategy of making sure that what you posted on one platform, you didn't post on the other, right? And so we were really like scrambling to create content that was going to give everybody enough variety on each separate platform where they didn't overlap. And if they did overlap, it wasn't on the same day with the same post. So we may take a Thursday post this week and maybe pull it onto the other post, like on Wednesday of the following week. It was exhausting. It was exhausting. And so we found that that doesn't work. We found that that makes us tired, but then also we find that a lot of your clients are not on each and every social media platform that you're on. Like, let's be honest, if you have a group that is loyal to you on your Facebook, they may not be on your Instagram, because Instagram speaks to a different demographic, it moves different, and so you're going to have some cross-pollination, but you're not going to have a lot. Your audiences are going to be very different. And so thank God. Thank God that actually came out, that because we were really dropping like flies trying to like create content for each and every social media platform. And it also limited us as creatives and as entrepreneurs, because instead of fighting that fight, entrepreneurs just said, I'm just going to stick to one, right? But again, you've got different audiences on each platform. So if you're not on different platforms, then you definitely are leaving money on the table. There's a smart way for you to repurpose content on each and every platform for another purpose. Now, we'll tell you this. Well, I'll save that. I'll save that for later. Okay. Number 2, you can extract content from existing content already created, right? So as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you've got content from last month, from last year, from a few years ago. We even have memories that pop up and shows us like what we posted 2 years prior. Please understand that your tribe they are not going to remember each and every piece of content, right? So give yourself some grace. It is definitely okay to repurpose content, and it is definitely okay for you to reach all the way back into the vault and pull something that you didn't. It's like a vintage dress, right? You wore it one time, right? You put it up, but you go back in and you pull it out again years later, and everybody thinks it's brand new because they haven't seen it in so long, right? And maybe you dressed it up different with some earrings, a necklace, maybe a cape or a shawl, you know, a scarf. So you can dress up your content in the exact same way. We're going to get into it. And then the third way that you can repurpose content that we're going to discuss is just create fresh content based off of inspiration from your existing content. And we're going to talk about that. All right, so let's dive in. Number one, sharing content across all social media platforms. Like I said, it used to be daunting. It used to be, oh, let's create something for Facebook and let's do something different for Instagram. And whatever we did on YouTube never came over to the other platforms. And so that was a very, very tiring thing to do when you are repurposing and creating content across all social media platforms. You definitely want to make sure that you are being consistent with your branding. And one way to do that, to be consistent with your branding, is to make sure that you are repurposing content across all social media platforms. So I'm just going to ask if you could mute your mic, if you can mute your microphone. Thanks. All righty. So we'll cut that out. Okay. Welcome, welcome. All righty. So if you have any questions, definitely jump in. I've got my chat open, so make sure you hit me up on the chat. And then we'll circle back around at the end and take questions too. So the first way that we're discussing on how to repurpose content is how to share across all social media platforms, right? And so there's a way that, especially when you're starting on your Pinterest journey, people think, oh my God, I have to recreate from scratch, but you really don't. You've got a world of content that you've already created from last month, last year, right? That's on brand, that's consistent with the problems that you slay. And so you want to make sure that you reach back in there. And when you're posting, it is incredibly important for you to make sure that you post across all platforms. So there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. I'm actually going to stop sharing and I'm going to move over to, I'm going to switch it over to another screen. Hold on for just a sec. There we go. So I'm actually going to come over to, I love Creator Studio. Now, Creator Studio is one of my faves. It is through Facebook and it does connect through your Instagram. And so if you're not using Creator Studio, I'm going to show you real quick and dirty why you should be using it. And I go back and forth. I use a couple of different platforms. It just depends on what I'm on. If I'm on my phone posting, if I'm on my laptop posting. But when you're repurposing content, right, you want to make sure that you're on brand consistently with both. So one of the reasons why I like Creator Studio is because it gives you the analytics, right? Which is why we have business accounts. So you get to see all of your analytics here, which is key. And you also get to see what works and what doesn't. So I normally go straight to my Instagram, and when I'm creating a post, it actually allows me to see what works and what doesn't work. So I actually did a live last night. And the live, I got like 70 views, I got 17 likes, and I got 1 comment. So I got to look and check out what that comment is, right? So it actually gives you a little bit of insight about what that post looks like, But if you're looking at all your content across the board, you can see what your numbers are just in a snapshot. You can see how the same post does on Instagram as it does on Facebook, right? And so repurposing content across all social media platforms will allow you to understand what content works best on each platform, right? Because they're not all created equal. So that's one reason why I like Creator Studio. You can also, it breaks it down into videos, photos, carousels, which I don't do a lot of, stories, and then IGTV. So it just gives you like a really good breakdown of how to automate on all of your posts, right? Which is a form of repurposing. And then the other one that I really, really love, you know, I'm always going to come here to my tailwinds, because tailwinds allows you to repurpose across all three. Now I'm going to give you a nugget. There's tailwind for Instagram and there's tailwind for Pinterest. Most creators and entrepreneurs who say, oh, I want to add Pinterest to my marketing strategy, and I'm going to use Tailwinds, right? And when they do that, they automatically click on Tailwind for Pinterest. Don't do that. Pick Tailwind for Instagram. And the reason why, I'm going to show you in a second. Well, we're already on Pinterest, right? So you'll see here, Tailwind with just the Pinterest account, you have your weekly summary, you have your publisher, so you can publish content, right? You've got creates, so you can create, and we'll talk about that a little later, which is where you can create images inside. It's a really slick program. And then it has the Smart Bio link. And the Smart Bio link is like a link tree, but it actually allows each of your posts to become clickable, because with the Smart Bio link, you can go in and you can see. So now I'm gonna, and actually this is your insights. I'm sorry, I got it confused. So you don't even have the Smart Bio link, and you do not have this connected to your Instagram. So when you pick the tailwind for Pinterest, that's one of the downfalls of it, is that you're not able to connect it to your Instagram, right? To get those analytics working for you, and you don't have the Smart Bio link. Now, I'm gonna go into the same account on my Instagram, right? This is my Paula's Whip Pinterest. I'm gonna click on my Paula's Whip for my Instagram. And so you still have the publisher, and I usually drag and drop content. So when I'm working on content, I love Tailwind because there's a little plugin that you can connect to your computer, and you can hover over any image and it will snatch it and it will throw it into your Tailwind. I usually save it into drafts, which is why I have so many drafts, because then when I get ready to automate, everything's already here. All I have to do is just decide how I'm going to place it and automate it inside of my grid. And so here are insights again, and then here is your Smart Bio, right? And the Smart Bio, I'll click on it really quickly. Again, it's like a Linktree link. I love Smart Bio, so I use it for one. I actually use this on 2 of my business accounts on Instagram. I don't use it for one. I use solo for one because I do a lot of video creation on that platform, on that particular account. But with the Smart Bio here, you can see it has the icons you can create. You can add a link here if you want it. But then also I can go here and I can make each one of my posts clickable on the Smart Bio. So it looks like I'm just going to go here for, you place the link in here, paulasweb.com, and I'm going to add it. So now when I add that particular item, it takes it out of this section and moves it down here. These are all clickable links. So when I go to my Instagram account, I'm going to move my Instagram over here so you can see it on Paula's Whip, and I'm going to refresh. So I'm going to click on my Smart Bio for Paula's Whip. So this is what a person sees when they're on my Instagram. They see my little links here, but then they also see these images, which are my posts that I posted on my Instagram. And each one of these posts are clickable, right? So I can click on this and it takes the user directly to the website that I want them to go to. So I love the Smart Bio. The Smart Bio is a really slick way for you to add on. So I wanted to show you those two ways that you can repurpose content and really get back into not being afraid to use the same content across all social media platforms. Don't be afraid. So we're going to go back here. And so just remember, when you are sharing content and repurposing for each platform, that you remember the platform's intent, meaning Pinterest is a search engine. So Pinterest runs primarily with imaging and keywords. Those are the two big nuggets when it comes to social media or how Pinterest runs. It is a search engine, so it's very different than your typical social media platform. So if I am repurposing content that I posted on Instagram, then when I place it onto my Pinterest, I've got to really make sure that my keywords are sprinkled into the title and into the description. It's very important. Also, that I have a very clear call to action with a link that takes them directly where I want them to go. Because your links are not clickable on Instagram unless you're using the Smart Bio, but they are clickable on Pinterest. The other thing is, Instagram is heavy with hashtags, right? So it has that hashtag strategy that's really strong. And so the way I use it on my Instagram is going to be very different than how I use it on my Facebook. And because Facebook doesn't primarily work with a lot of hashtags, like Instagram is average about 30 hashtags, right? Being very specific. Facebook isn't. You just need like 4 or 5. So the strategy for each platform is different, and so you have to have a handle on that when you are organizing how you're going to repurpose content across platforms. Also, you got to make sure the sizing of the image is correct. If you don't, then the image size is going to be very different. It's going to be, it's not going to show up in the same way, especially on Instagram. You've got to stay really tight with that sizing, because if it's too large of an image, it won't fit inside the frame, which makes your grid not look as inviting. So we definitely want to make sure we're thinking about what that social media platform is intended for and the sizing, right? And a lot of times I get asked this question a lot: are you supposed to resize your imaging? I think you need to really consider the size of the image to the platform. Because a Pinterest image is going to use a 2:3, which is the longer image. There's a strategy behind that. If you use a regular like 2:2 image across all platforms, will it work? Yes, it will. However, on Pinterest, if you use the 2:3 image, right, it's a longer image. So when your images pop up with everybody else's in the user search, which do you think the user is going to go to? It's going to go, the eye is going to go to the bigger image. So that's the strategy with Pinterest, right? So you've got to make sure that you're really like thinking about what that strategy and that platform intent is, right? Keywords versus hashtags, graphics that have people flying and words flying across the screen, and very simple static pins and images that are just very, very simple, chromatic in color, very simple captions on the overlay, or do we want words flashing? So really take those things into consideration when you're repurposing content. Now, number 2, extract content from your existing content that's already created. So I'm gonna pause here. I'm gonna go back and just ask questions. So any questions so far on repurposing content across social media platforms? Are we good in that? Do you have any questions about that? It just says user, so I don't know who I'm talking to. You can unmute. Hey. Let's type this in. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, so we're gonna keep going. I don't know who this is that's on. So if they jump back in, hopefully they will let me know who they are. Because we get a lot of trolls on Zoom as well, so we have to be very careful about that. All right, so I'm gonna go back and share my screen. Alrighty, so we're gonna go to number 2. Number 2, we're gonna talk about extracting content from existing content that you've already created, right? So this is one of my favorites, to create a big item, right? And to like splice it and make it more narrow, like really niche down. Now, let me tell you the number one pain point that people have about this is because when you're extracting content from existing content that you're creating, and it's something that you are selling, right? You are packaging this and selling. You don't want to give away all the goods. And so there's a fear factor that comes in with creators on not giving away all their awesome sauce in the content that they're delivering, right? Typically, you want to give away probably and repurpose about 60% of your content. And I need y'all to wrap y'all heads around that. 60% of your content. So I'm gonna walk you through this, how it looks, right? But there's a couple of different ways that you can extract content, right? So let's just take this video, for example. There's sound bites or quotes that I'm saying inside of this video. Also, if you're doing Facebook Lives, if you're doing Instagram Lives, if you have a YouTube video, right? If you're going on and doing any type of big, huge work, like a blog, for example, it doesn't always have to look like video, right? You can chop that thing down into bite-sized pieces that you can create content for. So you can extract bullets right now. Let's go back. Let me go back to this slide right here. This slide right here could be a whole post. I could post this right here and talk about the 3 ways to repurpose content. Boom, that's a post, right? But then I could also go to this and make this a whole post, right? So now we've got 2, right? We've got 2. I could actually talk about one of these, right? Not giving away all the awesome sauce, but I could talk about I could just take this one word, this one slogan, remember platform intent, right? And that's another piece of content. I could talk about, does sizing matter, right? That's another piece of content that I'm extracting from this video, right? From this training that is packaged for my paid clients, but I'm extracting the content and delivering it in my post, right? Nobody knows that it comes verbatim from my coursework. And I will tell you this, every time I teach it different. So when I teach this again, it'll look totally different, right? But you want to answer pain points in your post. Remember, you want to make sure that whatever the problems you solve, that you're solving them in little tiny pieces with your post. So we want to create content that does that, all righty? And then extracting the content from your existing content. That's a pretty post right there. Isn't that gorgeous? I could do that, right? And so you want to extract something out of something really big, and those little pieces that you snatch out of it, that you break it up. It's kind of like pulling the ingredients out of a soup, right? You know, so you've got this huge recipe, or maybe you've got like a pot of pasta, right? You got a pot of spaghetti, right? And so we're going to extract the ground turkey. We're going to extract the tomatoes. We're going to extract the whole grain pasta, because I only eat whole grain pasta. But you want to extract the ingredients, right? Bit by bit. But we're going to keep the sauce. We just extracted the tomatoes, but we're going to keep the sauce. They don't need to know the sauce, right? But we can extract pieces out of that pasta, right, and share with them so that they can see a little glimpse of what the recipe is about, right? What we're talking about, what problems we solve, right? So we want to really talk about that. You can transcribe video, which is my favorite thing to tell people to do, especially if you have video content. If you have video content, you definitely want to extract the video. You want to make sure that you are extracting the video, the audio, and also transcribing the video. So if you've got any type of video content, you can extract the audio, right, and make sound bites out of that. You can extract and transcribe the written and pull content out of what you created in your video. You can also take video content, splice it into sections, especially with story pins on Pinterest, reels on Instagram, and TikTok videos as well. So you want to make sure that you're recreating content or repurposing content that you already have. Now, what's the one thing that all of these pieces of content have in common? They're on brand with the message of the bigger piece of content. So it's just a way for you to not try to recreate more content, but how do I like splice up, dice up, chop up, maybe instead of broiling, that content, I'm going to bake it this time. Instead of baking this content, I'm going to fry it this time, so you want to just try to do different things with your content, zhuzh it up. Then remember, content that you created like way back, you can pull those babies out too, dust them off. We always like a good throwback. So if you've got content that's amazing and exceptional, it's going to be an amazing throwback, right? Alrighty. So number 3, we're going to talk about fresh pins and how to create fresh pins using Tailwind. So I'm going to go to my Tailwind and share that with you. I'm going to go back here. And so we're actually going to go into let's go into Pinterest. So we're going to go into our Pinterest account. And this is a separate account that I have. And we're going to go into Tailwind Create. Now, Tailwind Create is a part of Tailwind that you have when you are connected with your Tailwind Pinterest, right? And it allows you to repurpose content, which I absolutely love it. So you get 15 free with the Tailwind account. So you can create 15 images free. Oh, and I'm resetting. So I need to create some content. It resets every 30 days. And so I always try to get as many pieces of content. So we're going to click Start Design. It's going to initialize, and then it's going to open up, and you're going to create a destination link. So I usually just always use the same link, because remember, on Pinterest, every pin has a backlink, right? So when you click on it, the click takes you where you want them to go. And I try to be very specific, but for the sake of time, here, I'm just going to type in. So I'm just going to type in my generic website, and you'll notice that when I put in that website, because it's connected with the internet and with Google, it automatically populates my SEO title for my website. So this is my whole title here, which I use all the characters in my titles. In case you didn't know. So I'm going to take that out. Now you can upload images. You can see it's already pulled some images that I've already created. And you can upload images from your file. You can also use stock imaging as well. And so let's go into stock imaging. Let's just see like what happens. I'm going to type in bath and see what populates when I pop that in. So it's going to give you some stock images. Some you may be able to use, some you may not. This is a nice one. Okay, so let's oh, this is a nice one. Let's go here, because I'm actually working on a promo of I'm asking them every other day, is your skin spring proof? So that's my spring tagline. So I can actually check off as many as I want. So I can select a variety, right, of images that it's going to give me. I like that one. I love this little brown baby. Oh, so let me uncheck this one. Let me see if I can uncheck it. Let me get rid of that one. Let me get this little brown baby. Oh, it won't let me. Let me see if I can uncheck all of these. I really want that little brown baby. No, let me get rid of all of these. I just want that little brown baby. It won't let me. Lesson learned. You got a 3 limit. So make sure with the free, you've got a limit of 3. So I've got this one. I'm going to hit create images. Now, this is just an existing image that we're having. This is one image, right? Now, I want you to look and see how many images this bad boy creates, right? It creates multiple images for you. Very clean. They all look a little different. And you get to choose from all the images that you want. Now, I love Tailwind Create because it gives you an amazing way to be able to repurpose content, recreate existing content, right? And I usually pick one that is a picture. I'll pick one that has like some different colors in it. And then I'll also pick one that's usually like all words. Like this one is mostly words. I like images like this, but I've used that one before with some other product I've had. This one is nice too. It has an overlay. It's beautiful overlay. So you can click up to 5 of these images. Tailwind's going to stop you at 5. You can even see up here, it tells you that up to 5, you're done. And that's because they don't want your images to look too much alike. Remember with Tailwinds, I'm sorry, with Pinterest, they want fresh pins. So all of your pins can't look like the exact same thing. So you've got to be really careful and pick maybe this one with an overlay that you really can't tell what's behind the image, right? And then you may pick this one over here, and then you may pick this one. All 3 of these are very different. Even though they use the same image. So you kind of want to pick and choose with that thing, right? And that's one of the main ways that you can really repurpose content when it comes to Tailwind, and how you can just take that one image and it creates like over 100 images. So you've got time. You've got plenty of images to look through and cipher through to see which one works for you, right? And so I'm going to go all the way back here just to kind of recap the 3 ways to repurpose content, right? Want to share your social media, share across all social media platforms. It's okay. It's okay. Just make sure that we're really working with intention, that we're thinking about each platform and what that platform's intent is. If you have a platform that's very visual, they like video, right? And you have another platform that doesn't really, well, all platforms like video, but maybe you want to have maybe the talking head, or maybe you want to have an audiogram, or maybe you just want to have the words scrolling across in auto text. There's a lot of different ways you can repurpose the content based on the platform that you're placing it on. Same exact image, right? Same exact content, but we're just going to repurpose it in a couple of different ways. And then when you extract the content from your existing content, so I say you take like that pie, you take that recipe, and you start to pull, instead of putting ingredients in, you start to pull ingredients out of your content. So you have this larger piece of content, and now we're going to just extract pieces of content out. We're going to extract the audio from a video, right? And then we're going to look through the transcription, and we're going to pull out the 3 bullet points of that item. And then we're going to create content for each individual bullet because it can stand on its own, right? And then we may take sound bites of the audio and just make an audiogram with it. And then we can take the video and we can chop it up into minutes, right? Because we know Instagram likes everything under a minute for that post, but we also know that sweet spot of 15 to 20 seconds when it goes to your reels and your TikToks. So we can be very intentional, right? When we're moving in that way. So really make sure that you're thinking, how do I take this bigger piece and break it down? And then the third way to repurpose content that we discussed is creating fresh content using Tailwind, right? So making sure that you take like a really good image and drop it into Tailwind Create and just watch it spit out tons of other pieces of content that you can really save and extract. Doesn't mean that you've got to put everything out today. A lot of times I will pull pieces of content that I've repurposed on Tailwind Create, and I'll just automate that thing. I'll do one this month. I'll do another next month. I just automate it, right? So that I have plenty of content to go around. And so that's how I go. That's how I go. Alrighty, so I am done This was great, repurposing content. If you have any questions about it, definitely type them in the comments. Let me know. I'm going to ask that you share a piece of content that you repurpose. Like, let us know. We want to know. Okay, let us see like how you repurpose that piece of content, because that's going to be super important as well. All righty. Well, I am done. It's your girl Paula Marie, aka the Ebony Biz Diva. Thank you so much for hanging out and checking out how to repurpose content. Definitely ask your questions in the comments and stay connected, because closed mouths don't get fed. So if I don't hear from you, I don't know what you need and I can't help you. All righty. Bye.